Welcome to Tech Time with Lawrence and Carl. How many have joined us now? Well, about 15. So we are going to start, and we have a number of things we're going to talk about today. If you want to ask questions as we're going along, either put it in chat or just take yourself off mute and ask a question. But the first thing we're going to do is Lawrence is going to make an announcement.
Thank you, Carl, and good morning, everybody. I'm going to share my screen and show you a t-shirt that will soon be available for a contest winner that Carl and I are going to be running a contest. Every time we do a Tech Time, we're going to be soliciting ideas to include for the next Tech Time. And if you are the lucky winner of the idea that we use for one of our Tech Time broadcasts, you will get yourself a t-shirt that will look pretty much like this mock-up t-shirt that we've created. That's the new Tech Time logo that Carl and I spent, I don't know how many hours putting together and brainstorming. And then we brought in contractors, went online and did ELANCE, and eventually we came up with Tech Time. I'm kidding around, of course. We put that together pretty quickly, but I think it gets the job done. So we will be giving out these t-shirts, and we really hope that you will participate and give us some good ideas, because after all, we are doing Tech Time for you, and we want you to get a lot out of it. So we're hoping that we'll get some good ideas, and maybe this will be an incentive. So these t-shirts will be available starting with the next Tech Time, which will be in May sometime, as we've been doing these about every other month. And so that is the first exciting announcement that we have. Carl, did you want to add anything, or is that pretty much sums it up?
Oh, the date. Did you give the date?
The date. We're going to do, it'll be the submissions for the first one will be for the next Tech Time, but we're going to have a 2-week period between today and 2 weeks from today, which is March 29th. That will be the deadline for ideas submission. So you have 2 weeks to submit to us. Send us an email, send it to either Carl or myself, or both of us preferably. And that way we will have the ideas. But 2 weeks from today is the deadline to get your ideas in. We'll probably send an email out to memorialize this for people who are not here today on the call. But that's the first thing of today's meeting. I'm going to turn it back to you, Carl.
Okay, and if you would stop your screen share.
Yep.
Okay, so first thing we're going to talk about today, and Lawrence, while I'm talking, will you admit people?
I will, depending on who it is, Carl.
Okay, well, it's Ken Newman, so you might not want to do that. Anyway.
Well, Ken, I'll let him in.
Okay. So first thing we're going to talk today about is printers. And so let's talk about the different types of printers and what you might want to buy. So you can slice and dice printers in a number of different ways. So I've picked 2 different ways. One is AIO, or all-in-one printers. Typically, they'll print, copy, scan. Some of them will fax, although I don't know anyone who faxes anymore. But that's an all-in-one. And those come in either laser, which are black and white. There are some color lasers, but usually they're for graphics. They cost a little bit more money. I think Lawrence has one, but most people don't. And color. And then there are inkjets, which are color. And they come in either cartridge or tanks. So those are the types of all-in-one printers that you can get. Or then you can just get a regular printer, not all-in-one. They don't copy, scan, fax. So those are the general types. And then you can get them either wired or wireless. And we're going to talk about that and show the various types to you. So let me go to, let's see, first we'll get up to here and go there. And then new share. Okay. Okay, so let's talk about all-in-one first. Okay, this is a pretty typical all-in-one printer. It's a Brother. I really like the brand. It's good. And you can see that it has a document feeder. If you get an all-in-one, you want to have a document feeder where you can put multiple pages in. So you don't want to get something which is just a flatbed. You put one document in, you copy it, take it out, put another one. They're cheap, but they're really a pain in the butt. So this is a typical one. You can see the price is about $200,000. It's rated very highly on Consumer Reports. It's a good brand. I probably had, in variations of this, 2 or 3, maybe 4 of them over the last 20 years. It's a pretty perfected model. Now, if you want to go, and this is laser, so it's going to be black and white. Now, if you want to go to an inkjet type, here is a Brother, which is another very good brand. I mean, it's the same brand. It's a very good one. It is $129 approximately, depending on where you go. Has the same feeder on, type of feeder on it, but this is inkjet. And we'll talk about in a minute the advantages and disadvantages of inkjet versus laser. So this is one. This type, you use cartridges. And these cartridges can get very expensive. So for example, on this one, if you bought Brother cartridges, a cartridge set for this would cost you $53. So that would be the color plus the black and white. And after I talk about this, Lawrence is going to talk about buying non-OEM inks. And you can save a lot. But if you bought the Brother, it would cost you $53 just for one set of the color and black and white cartridges. Now, a newer type of printer that's come out over the last several years, I think it started with Epson, and has now gone to what they call mega tank. See that? I don't know if you can see this right here. Right in there, these things right in here are tanks of ink. So rather than have a cartridge, which has the electronics and it has the printer part to it, these are just tanks of ink. And while the prior one I showed you on the inkjet would print about 600 pages for that $53 of Brother ink, this one will print 6,000 pages for a relatively small amount of money, so that your actual consumable cost per year using this is around $5, $6. Whereas the other one, you're going to spend well over 100 plus. So even though this one costs more money to start with, it will cost you significantly less over time. So why do you want one of these over the other? And it really what depends upon is how much do you print a year and how much do you care about color? I used to use color mostly for doing graphic work, etc., printing covers for book manuals, for example, for the 40-hour course. I'd print an occasional photograph. Nowadays, I seldom, if ever, print color. So I'm not sure that I would have a color printer. If I did, I would certainly buy a low-end one with relatively modest capabilities, just something that I could use now and then. If, on the other hand, you use a lot of color printing and you also use a lot of black and white printing, you might consider a couple of variations of what you want to buy. So first, you need an all-in-one printer. You can't get around that because nowadays you have to have the ability to print, you have to have the ability to copy, and you have to have the ability to scan. Scanning is the way that everybody sends documents nowadays. You scan them, you email them. You know, if you have any kind of business, if you're doing anything or dealing with anyone else, you have to have an all-in-one printer. It just goes without saying. Now, and that will take care of your printing needs, whether you're printing 50 copies a month or hundreds of copies a month. If you're using a color printer every now and then, and you don't need this kind of setup, which has an all-in-one, you might go to a much different one. So let's look at this one, I think is, okay. No, that's,
Hi.
no, let's forget.
No, I'm just starting.
At the shadow.
Easy.
Okay.
Yeah. You feel okay?
So what you would need is just a simple printer.
Ah, that's good.
Okay, so you would get the all-in-one for the black and white, the printing, the scanning, etc. You'd get an inexpensive color printer. You don't need it with an all-in-one, but just an inexpensive setup. And that would take care.
Carl, you're muted.
Call, you're on mute, Call. Oh, there you go.
I think you muted me, didn't you?
I did by accident.
Okay.
That was a technical screw up.
You weren't upset about what I was saying.
No, you know what it was? There was background noise, and I figured, let me take a chance and see if I mute everybody. Since we're both hosts, it shouldn't mute you too, but it did. So I
Okay.
apologize.
So are there any questions about all-in-ones, which ones you want, etc.? No. Okay, let's talk about brands. I think the two best brands, certainly for color, I think usually the best brand out there is Canon. For black and white, Brother is really excellent. They've been very reliable over the years. So those two brands are really excellent. And again, depending on how much you use and whether you need color, you might, these are the types that you want to get. You might also consider having multiple printers, and Lawrence will show you his setup. I'll show you my setup that I've developed over time. And I've done it because I use one for the color, one for a lot of printing because it's inexpensive laser. And then I have the all-in-one as well, which costs a little bit more. And when we go look at the cost of these in a few minutes, then you can see why you might want to have multiple printers. Now, one other feature that you should consider are wireless printers. If you have multiple people in a home in different places and you don't want to have printers all over the place, you might consider having a wireless printer. But you have to have a good signal everywhere people are using their laptops or wherever, or tablets, in order to work with that wireless printer. Personally, I have not had good success with wireless printers. So I always connect mine with a cable, my printers with cables, and it always works great. I mean, you'll spend a few dollars more for a wireless printer. You can try it. If it doesn't work, you can use a wire with it as well. But you might want to consider it because of your particular circumstance. So it's really up to you. As I said, my experience has not been good. Work sometimes, not always. Sometimes you could sort of overload it if you're printing something really large. But try it. It's not a terribly different amount with respect to the cost. So, okay, so that's pretty much what I have to say for printers right now.
All right, Carl, let me chime in with a couple of comments on printers, if I may. And I, again, greatly apologize to my co-host for muting you before. I just hope you will not find a replacement for me in that error. Okay, so the first thing I want to say is that when you're looking at printers, obviously everybody has their personal favorites. It's really just, you hear somebody talking very positive about Brother, somebody about HP, somebody about Epson. Lexmark is a brand that I use for my color laser. It is so, sometimes it's a crapshoot, and it's a matter of if you get the good printer and it's one that lasts for you, you become loyal to that brand. So that's the first thing. There is no, definitive printer to get. But as Carl said, there are definitely a couple that seem to have very good reputations. For me, I use two black and white laser HP printers that are not very expensive. And I got them, I've probably been using them for about 10 years. And I have two only because I don't remember why I got the second one, but I bought one of them on eBay. I think I bought one originally new, and then there was one on eBay. I bought it maybe for $50 or something like that. It had about 10,000 pages printed on it. And I figured, as a backup printer, I think that's what it was. I wanted to have a backup printer that if I had to run out of a cartridge or whatever, I always had a backup. So I've been using two now, and one is sort of like what I use for printing junk, copies of things I wanted to stick in the file. It doesn't have to be super quality. Maybe one is sort of like junk printing, and one is really that I kind of keep for my, letterhead stuff that I'm sending out. As we'll talk, I'm going to get into, the printer toners. They're relatively inexpensive now. So to run these things, it's not that expensive. To Carl's point, my configuration is those are hardwired. They're not wireless printers. They're hardwired in with Ethernet. And so there's never a problem with getting them printed out. I also do have an all-in-one multifunction, a Canon that I bought years ago, which is great. For me, multifunctions, I've had a couple over the years, and I've always bought Canon, and I've always been very satisfied with the quality of the color and the reliability, the ease of use. Canon, to me, is a company that has great user manuals, great customer service. They're obviously coming out of the camera, was their background. They have good quality cameras too. For the consumer, I've always felt Canon is a great one. Now, I will say this, Carl, I do fax things still, because a lot of the municipal courts, and I do a lot of municipal court work, you fax them a letter. They don't work on the electronic filing. It's all faxing a letter of representation. So I'm always faxing still, and that's why that multifunction with the fax capability for me is really critical. Now that is a wireless printer that I have, and I have not had any problems printing to my Canon from either in my home office or downstairs in my house. So maybe I'm fortunate and lucky that my Wi-Fi is working, but I haven't had that problem, and it is incredibly convenient to have a wireless printer for the reason, and sometimes you run out of room in your office and you can't connect to the back of your desktop tower, which is what I connect the other printers to. And having that wireless means I can put that printer just anywhere and still have access to printing from wherever I need it to. So those are things that are always going to be unique to your own personal situation. I also have a color laser printer. And I got that because a few years ago, I was printing out a lot of color brochures. and using the inkjet from the Canon multifunction was not as good quality. The laser is a better quality product. So if you are printing out stuff that you want to give or send in the mail to somebody the old way or whatever, and there is less and less of that these days. So of course the need is going down, and I don't use it nearly as much as I used to, but every once in a while I still do use it. And when I do, it is a much better quality product than the inkjet. And the inkjet, I don't have a large tank one. I had one that, I got years ago, and they do, you do accumulate the costs on those inks. And not only that, sometimes, you end up on some of these printers when you have to be, nowadays, I think they all separate out the black ink from the color ink, but you have to watch that too, because sometimes even when you're printing in black, I've found that the color gets drained sometimes. So you have to be careful. Some of these, they're probably all a lot better these days, but they used to drain both your color and your black. And it's like, hey, I haven't even been using, either the color or just the black, but I'm finding they're both going down. So there's a little frustration sometimes with these ink toners. And as I'm sure you all have experienced, the manufacturers, they sell you the printer relatively cheap, because they make the money usually on the ink. So you can get them, like my color laser, I probably got for a couple $100. It was a phenomenal deal, but the cartridges are like $60 to $80 each one, and there's 4 of them. So when you go through laser cartridges or toner cartridges, you end up buying that printer many times over, during the course of the life of it. That being said, I think it really, as Carl has already indicated, it is going to be how often do you print color and how good do you want the quality. For me, I don't want to use my inkjet for sending out legal letters or briefs or motions, and it's not as good quality as the laser printer. So that's why I have it set up where I have 2 laser printers to go for when I want to send out nice looking documents and just have it's a little crisper. So that's the only thing I really wanted to add on printers. Just the brands that I have been using over the years. I've been using HP and Canon, and a Lexmark color printers. The first Lexmark I ever had, it's been decent. So I have no complaints per se about Lexmark. I used to have an Epson inkjet when they first came out. I switched over to Canon years ago, and I've never looked back. I've never had a problem with my Canons. So that's my input on the printers.
With respect to fax, Lawrence, you must still have a landline, a plain old telephone line.
Yeah, I have a dedicated fax line.
Okay. So, for example, I have no landline, none at all. So the fax function really doesn't work unless you have a plain old telephone line.
Yeah, that's a good point. And
a plain old telephone line is probably around $50 a month nowadays. So a lot of us have just dropped it. And that's why if you're going to use a fax function, you have to have that landline.
Yeah, good point. And if you don't need it, obviously you don't need it. I personally, I'll tell you the other reason why. You just brought up something that comes in. I have clients that I represent, and they can't scan an email for whatever reason. They're not tech savvy, or they don't have a computer, or they don't. I've had many clients who will say, I have to go to Staples to fax you something. Okay, they have to go to Staples to fax, but that's how they get it, by faxing. It's just something that people know how to fax. So
Right.
For me to have a fax machine to receive documents from clients sometimes is a lifesaver in certain situations. I prefer, and I always would rather have something emailed to me that I can print out. And whenever I do get a fax, I have set it up with, my fax service. So it comes to me as an email, and then I print it out. So I don't get 20 pages of faxes printing out on my inkjet, because that also sucks up the ink capability. I'd rather use the computer to print it out on my printer. On the backup laser printer that I have, I print out the 20-page fax that I get from somebody, or the 40-page fax. I can print that out at my leisure, not have it take up my multifunction ink. But if you don't have the need for faxing or you don't have a landline and all that stuff, then of course you're not going to use it. But for those people who do, like myself, I do need a fax, and it is a lifesaver, as I mentioned, for certain people that just don't have that capability to scan. But hopefully, as people get more and more down the road, there's so many ways that we went over scanning, I think the last tech time with your
Right.
phone now. So there's a lot of ways to get things scanned.
Okay. Let me just show, this is a pack of inkjet cartridges. They're off-brand or non-OEM. They come in, I don't know how many were in here, like 20. Variety of color, black and white, etc. They're really pretty cheap. I mean, when you compare this kind of thing to the Brother or the Canon brand, you're saving a tremendous amount of money. Is it as good? Pretty damn close in most cases. I printed 8x10 photographs. It's difficult to tell the difference. I mean, you can side by side. You can save a lot of money this way. The LaserJet cartridges generally run about, I don't know, how much, Larry? $15 a piece?
No, actually, and that's a good segue. For my laser printers, I used to use the HB laser toner cartridge, right? For the ones I use, they usually were $89 each. I just went online today before this tech time just to price it out. And I found two of my HP toner cartridges for $158.99 on Amazon Prime, free shipping. So the price I would have to pay if I'm going HP is $158.99. The company that I use, which is Linkyo, Linkyo. I don't know. I found them honestly just on the internet a while ago.
I've used them many times.
Two cartridges for the HP, $20.99 for two. So it's $10 a cartridge versus 79. So it's basically 13% of the cost. Now I've been using Linkyo for a while, and they're fine. They work right. They work fine, and the quality is good enough. I'm happy enough with what I send out to whoever I'm sending it to using these cartridges. Are they as good as the HP? I've done side by side, and I'm going to say the HP might be a little bit better. I would give them that, but I'm studying it to determine that. If somebody just reading whatever I would get is not going to notice the difference, and it's certainly not worth it for me to spend $130 more, for that incremental difference, which is minuscule. It's a no-brainer. I mean, it's not even a close call. When you're looking at 2 for 20 versus 2 for 158, I mean, it's not even if it was like 2 for 75 and 2 for 100, okay, maybe I'd go with the main brand, but it's so not, it makes it, like, to me, just a no-brainer. So that's what I would say about printer, off-market printer things.
Okay, before you turn to video editing, let me just show you. Okay, this is sort of in front of me, behind my monitor. You can see that is a large all-in-one printer. It is a Brother. I've had numerous ones of that. This is another laser printer. I bought this on sale for $49, refurbished, and I'm going to talk about refurbished. That's a workhorse. This thing I use all the time. It just goes and goes and goes. And then over here is a Canon color printer that I use rarely now, but I used mostly for creating covers and a variety of things, and printing out some photographs. So that's my setup. Takes a lot of space, but nevertheless functions fairly well for my purposes and keeps my costs down because I'm using most economical thing all the time. Okay, so now you're on to video editing.
Okay, so video editing. All right, so this is what I want to say about video editing. There are video editing software packages out there, and it's too too much of a detailed thing to go through a video editing package in detail for purposes of tech time. What I was thinking is asking if there's an interest in going through a video editing software application in detail to show some really nifty things. If we would then perhaps do a separate tech time for that, to really like do a detailed demonstration. Otherwise, it's a little bit beyond the scope of trying to do it in a 10-minute segment. But I want to just bring out to everyone's attention, there are several really amazing video editing packages out there for free. And of course, there's some that you can pay for as well. And I'll start with the ones that you can pay for, just to give you the idea of what's out there. Obviously, one of the top ones is Adobe Premiere Pro, okay? And this is one that people use. You can pay for it. It's usually about 21 bucks a month, up to about $34 a month. But if you're not going to be doing a lot of video editing and you're not a professional, I do not see why you would go and plunk down the money for that. But just know that there are some really top-notch ones out there that you pay for. Another one is called Power Director, much less expensive than Adobe. It's actually only about a little bit more than $4 a month to about $16 a month, depending on what version you get. Or you could buy a lifetime subscription and pay only about $100 to $140. So that one also has very good reviews. And in fact, we'll send around an email. I'll send it. I just looked at a review that came out about 3 days ago listing top video editing software, paid and non-paid. So I'll send out that link and it'll summarize a lot of what I'm going to say. And there's also Final Cut Pro for Mac users. That's $299. So those are ones you could pay for. Again, I'm just starting out there. I'm not even recommending that, because if you don't do a lot of video editing, my advice would be, and I don't do a lot, or I hadn't been doing a lot, but I got into this when I started making my CLE courses, and I taught myself how to do this stuff. And there is a little bit of a learning curve. So let me, start out by saying that you're not going to get a video editing software package and then start to be able to like instantly make great things. However, my advice is, what I did is I downloaded a few different ones. I would try one and I was like, I can't figure this out. I try another one. Okay, this one I can seem to do something with. And by the third or fourth one that I tried, I finally found one that worked for me. And the first one I'm going to mention is the one that I'm using only because it worked. I found it easy to work with, which is called VSDC. Don't ask me what that stands for. I memorize it because I think VS is verse, like, plaintiff versus defendant. So, and DC for Washington, DC. So in my head, it's always verse DC. That's how I remember these initials of this one. I don't know what it stands for. This is a free video editing software, and I'll share my screen just to show you if I can do that. Let me share my screen. Okay. So you should be able to see this. So this is like the user interface, and you can see there's a lot going on this. And I put together a little something for today just to, this is nothing what this can do. I mean, this is nothing. This is just a little, thing that I just put together in 5 minutes to show you, like, you can bring in stuff to your video, this screen area here. And you can bring in photos, you can bring in video that you've taken, you can bring in music that you found on the internet, you can do your own voiceovers, you can do so much stuff in making a video or a presentation and enhance it, that this is why video editing software is so amazing to have at our hands now and to have it for free. I only know probably, I would say 2% of what this software can do, but there's so many things that it can do to improve. If you're going to make any type of presentations, or you were thinking about making a video of yourself as part of your website to introduce yourself to potential clients, having a really nice video is such a great marketing tool that you can, record yourself on your own, let's say iPhone or, video recorder, whatever you use to record yourself, video camera, I should say. And then you bring it into this video editing software. You can edit out frames right to the specific frame. You can add maybe some background music, or you can have you can cut away, you can have 2 different videos, splice them together. It is just a super powerful thing at your disposal that used to be only for professionals. And these free video editing software that's out there now, it's just, if you have a little bit of an interest, or you have a creative mind, or you have a little bit of a tech background, you don't need to be super technical, but you do have to have a little bit of a knack. So that's why I want to preface it. If you're somebody that says, I can't even send an email without struggling, this is going to probably be a little bit beyond your capabilities. So I don't want to get you like all gung up for video if you're not techie. But if you have a little bit of a skill set, it doesn't take long before you can get the feel for these things. And what I did was I went onto YouTube, like, everybody does, and you just find tutorials. There are a lot of people that make beginner tutorials and show you basics. And that's how I kind of taught myself, is like, I didn't know what to do. Let me go look at a beginning tutorial. So I think with the free software and going onto YouTube for some basic, beginner stuff, you can, after a couple of hours, you can get the feel for some real basic stuff that you might just need to enhance whatever it is that you're trying to create. And then, then the sky's the limit. So it's not a super amount of learning curve if you factor in that there's already other people that will show you what to do. And a lot of this stuff is, if you have to sit there and play around with all the options, it takes a lot of time to figure out what everything does. But watching a video is just cutting to the chase, getting you what you need to know, and then you can be up and going at it. So even over a weekend, you can start on a Saturday. By Sunday, you can be really, really, moving along. I want to talk about, a couple of other free versions that are out there besides the one that I'm using. There's another one called Lightworks, which also gets very high marks. Now, the one thing about Lightworks is it does have a little bit more of a learning curve to use than the VSDC. So I think I downloaded Lightworks, and tried to use it, and I passed on it because it didn't hit me. But I want to mention it because it does get good reviews. And so does Hit Film Express. That's another one. HIT Film Express gets good reviews consistently. I don't know that I tried that one. I don't think I did, but there's another one I did try called Filmora. M-O-R-A, Filmora. Now, I tried that one, but the one thing about Filmora that I didn't like, what I remembered, was it always had Filmora's name on it. Like the free version, they put their logo on things. I don't want that when I'm making a video. I don't want Filmora on my stuff. VSDS doesn't do that, and I like that. That's a feature I would like. I want it to be my thing. I don't want somebody else's name on the background. And then there's, of course, for Mac, there's the Apple iMovie that you may already know of. That also has very good reviews. And then there's another one called DaVinci Resolve that also gets good reviews. I'm telling you, there's probably 10 other ones, okay, that I'm not going to overload you with. It is a process. So video editing software is a process that you have to go through. You have to be prepared to put a little bit upfront time to get familiar with how to use it. But I want to say this. Now that I've learned how to use it, I love it. And it takes away the need to always find somebody else to do something for me, an IT consultant, or who's going to do this. When you can take control over your own stuff and you want to create just a video about something, video editing software gives you this power that you've never had before. I'm telling you. And like I said, I know 2% of it, and I already can do a lot of things with it. I've already made good videos, and when I can, I'm learning more and stuff. When I find something I like, a sound effect, I can just bring that into the video editing, merge it up with maybe what I'm talking about, an illustration behind me, a clip. there's all these things that you can do. And I could, like I said, we could do a show, an episode where I could demonstrate stuff. But for today, I just wanted to bring the versions that are out there that I think get consistently good reviews and the reasons why. And as I said, it's taking creative control over your brand and your product. It's eliminating that, need to hire somebody else. And I do want to stress that it can feel overwhelming at first when you look at it, if you've never used these things. And I was overwhelmed at first, but it didn't take long before I figured out what I need to make it happen. And thank God for YouTube, right? Because this is how we find out our answers a lot of time. And so I would just highly recommend, if you're thinking about doing stuff like this, try one of the free ones. I would not plunk down any money. I don't think it's necessary. Certainly, if you're not a professional and you're not doing a lot of videos, it's not a good use of your dollar to be spending a monthly fee for the pro versions. There's too many good free ones out there. So that's kind of all I wanted to sort of lay the groundwork of it. I want to go through a real detailed demonstration. It'll take an hour to go through things. It's a slow thing. It'll drain this whole meeting. But on another episode, we might be able to do that and show you how I can put together 4 or 5 different things and all of a sudden have something and you can see it and you might get excited about it. I certainly am, because it's something that I find I just love, that taking control of that creative process. So that's all I got on video editing.
Okay, thanks, Lawrence. And now we're going to move on to refurbished. So that's not where we want to see that, is it? Hold on. Okay, so refurbished items. I have, over the past 20 years, bought a tremendous number of refurbished items. And let me first talk about what I mean by refurbished. So there are open box items. You might see those at Best Buy. Someone's bought something, they took it home, they didn't like it, they brought it right back. It's open box. It doesn't come with a warranty. You get a reduced price for it. Okay. But some things do have warranties. And so it's important to find out, does it have a warranty? How long is the warranty? And is it a manufacturer's warranty? Most places like Best Buy, et cetera, when they take something back, they're not going to give you a manufacturer's warranty. And the last item is, will my credit card cover it with their extended warranty program? Okay. So a lot of companies, manufacturers, have refurbished items for sale on their websites. Apple, Dell, Samsung, Microsoft, Brother, Canon, endless numbers of other manufacturers sell refurbished products. Just Google the name of the company, refurbished, and you'll see whether they can. 98%, this is my estimate, of anything that they're selling as refurbished never had a failure. It was never a problem with something failed. Someone bought it. They bought it at Costco, for example. They took it home. They didn't like it. They sent it back. The items are tested, and they obviously have to meet whatever the original equipment specs are. Normally, they come packaged in a brown box, but everything comes with it. I have never gotten anything that's had blemishes on it or look anything less than perfect. And if it comes from the manufacturer, they usually give you the same warranty that they would give you on a brand new item. So for example, I looked at a Samsung smartphone, just like the one I have. This one, which is what is it, a Tab 9 something or other plus. goes for around $800. Samsung has one of these now refurbished with a 1-year warranty on its website for $320. Right? Says it meets all original specs. So that's the kind of thing. I've bought on Canon cameras on their site. This is a G7 Mark II. No, this is a G7 Mark II. This is a G7 Mark II. Really nice camera, refurbished on the Canon site, same kind of warranty, and it's been great. Here's another one, which is a 40 times zoom Canon camera, which is really great for traveling. Never had a problem with them. They look perfect. So I really recommend always looking for refurbished products from the manufacturer, because they'll give you the warranty. And if you're buying it with a card like Costco that has that extended warranty, and other cards that you pay for usually nowadays that have an annual fee, they have extended warranties programs with them, they will apply it. So if you have the Costco card, it's 2 years on top of whatever the manufacturer gives you. So on this camera, it was 1 year, 2 more years. It's a 3-year warranty on this. And on anything else you buy, it's additional 2-year warranty on top of it. So what's the risk of you buying a refurbished product? Really not much, because most of these items suffer from infant mortalities rather than anything else. Electronics usually work for, if they haven't failed within the first few months, they're generally not going to fail. That's just the nature of the beast. So you're pretty safe in doing that. So, but why do you really want to buy it? Well, of course, the real reason you want to buy something is because it costs a lot less. So here's a, let's go back here. Okay, so this is the Mega Tank printer that we were looking at before. But now let's go to, this is a simple printer. $129 for this really simple printer. I bought, this one is where it's Staples. And for Staples, I make an exception with this, saying buy it always from the manufacturer. I've bought printers from Staples for years. They're remanufactured or refurbished rather by a Microsoft company. And they've been excellent. They come with a 1-year warranty. So that's $129 retail. And all these prices are pretty fixed because manufacturers can do that. If you go to the Brother website, the refurbished model is $89. Same thing, right? Same printer, it's $89. So, I mean, that's a substantial savings right there. Now, it happens to be out of stock. If you went to Staples refurbished, it's $89 too. I have bought this printer from Staples refurbished for as low as $49. If you go through each one of those other printers that I showed you, the all-in-one Brother, the Canon, you can find all of those refurbished on their respective sites. You can also find some of them on Staples at significant savings. So I think this is a great way to buy things. The warranty is good. Your credit card's warranty extension is going to cover it. I have never had a problem buying anything on a maybe once, on a refurbished basis. And if I did, They replaced it right away, absolutely seamlessly. So when you're buying these kinds of products, and it's other products too. I mean, you can buy Dyson's cleaners or vacuum cleaner, other things. So always look for a manufacturer's refurbished product, and you'll save a lot of money, and it'll work just as well. So you really ought to consider these kinds of things. Any questions? Anyone else buy any refurbished products?
Actually, Carl, let me just chime in before we do that. I want to just echo one thing that Carl was saying. I've also bought refurbished items. I haven't done it a lot, but I did do it with my desktop. I don't think, maybe about 5 years ago or 7 years ago. And I bought it not from, it was a Dell desktop. And I looked on Dell's website. They didn't have what I was maybe looking for in a refurbished, or it might have been too expensive. I don't remember. But I found the desktop I was looking for on a site, and I couldn't find the name of the manufacturer, the company that I bought it from. It's been a while, but I think I paid $250. And the new one was probably $1,000. So I was like, you know what? I never had did it before, but I was like, I'm going to try this. And it's been working ever since. It's never had a problem. I would agree with Carl, though. I would probably have felt more comfortable buying it from the manufacturer just for those reasons that were already talked about, and warranties and all that stuff. But I took a little bit of a gamble saying, you know what, what's the worst that's going to happen? If it blows up and it blows up in my face, I'm out $250, let's say. That's my downside risk. But I also believe that if you find a decent seller of refurbished things, if you couldn't find it on the manufacturer, they didn't have it available, or it was too expensive, if you can find a good seller out there, and there are, I mean, the one that I bought it from, I mean, there was an 800 number. I called them. I would always advise doing that too. Call and see if you get somebody, because if you don't get somebody during the sales process, good luck after you buy it too, right? If they should pick up the phone if they're trying to sell you something. So I remember calling, and I got somebody, and they spoke, and it was normal conversation. They were in maybe North Carolina or Tennessee, I think somewhere down there. I was like, okay, there's a real person, a real business here. And he made me feel comfortable with the purchase, and I went for it, and I'm glad that I did. It's good to, it's not a bad thing if you can find somebody else, some reputable company out there. You may not get those perks about the credit card covering it and all that stuff. The one point I wanted to make, though, before I forget, is that if you find it on somebody else's site, a lot of these companies will match prices still. So if you're going to find a refurbished item, let's say that you wanted, and it was on some other site, and then Dell or Staples or Canon was selling it also refurbished for a little higher, you might be able to get a matching of the price if it's an apples to apples comparison, because companies do want to do that. And the other thing I would say is that one of the reasons that I felt comfortable going with the refurbished is, as long as it was like somebody that like I felt was there when I called up, is the last thing they want is bad reviews about refurbished items, because there's already a little bit of an issue of trust with refurbished that people might have. Like, I'm not sure about that. I want it brand spanking new. The last thing somebody selling refurbished items is to have a reputation that, oh, they got a refurbished item from this guy and it stunk. So I think they will do everything to make sure you're happy and satisfied with a refurbished product, because there's a lot of incentive. They know they have a trust issue to always deal with. So they're going to try to make you a satisfied customer. That's what I believe goes behind that refurbished sale too, that we want to make sure you're happy, satisfied, and have peace of mind if they're a reputable company. So that's another reason why maybe to consider it, because there is a motivation there for that seller to make you happy. But
and again, emphasizing, almost none of these are products that have failed.
Yeah.
All of them are just products that have been bought. You buy something at Best Buy, you have 30 days to return it. You have 90 days to return it at Costco. So a lot of stuff gets returned. It's not that it's failed. people brought it home, they didn't like it, they didn't, and then they just take it back.
I brought back a big screen TV to Costco. I bought it. I measured everything. It was a really tight fit. I brought it home and I couldn't believe it. I was like, you know what? It's just too big. But I had to take it out of the box. I had to set it up, and then I brought it back and got the another brand that was a little bit different dimensions, and it worked. But that TV I brought back was perfect. I literally just took it home and literally brought it back almost, I think, the same day or the next day. So to Carl's point, that was probably sold. So, again, I don't know if it was sold as refurbished or something, but it was certainly sold and at a discount because it was already opened. And Amazon has a lot of that stuff on there too, as well. So,
yeah. Okay. So last topic is, so how do you know what to buy, where to buy it, etc. So let's just talk about that for a minute. Oops, got to get out of there. Okay. So here are my go-to places for information about products. And I'm kind of nutsy about stuff. And so in the morning I get up, I read the New York Times online, I look at a variety of things, and I always go to Consumer Reports. Why? Why do I care about toasters? I don't know, I do. I care about cameras, I care about cars. I sort of read the latest stuff about everything. So my number one place to go to is Consumer Reports for reviews on printers, on televisions, on phones. Why? Because I don't think they're not biased. They have good reliability ratings. And the way they do reliability ratings is that they send out surveys to their members of things that they have bought. And they ask their members, what is your experience with the product? Okay. So it's not them coming up with it. It's really surveys of people who have bought things. So I find them to be my number one reliable source for information. That doesn't mean you're always going to follow it because you may not agree with something. You may not want what they are talking about. For example, a car, the number one rated SUV is the Forester. Well, I don't want a Forester. I want a Mazda CX-5. Who knows? But it is an excellent source. Next one I didn't write down, which is Amazon. You can go to Amazon and they have all these reviews of products, 50, 100, thousands of reviews that are submitted by people, and you can get some decent information about a product from that. You have to be careful, however, that a lot of the reviews that are submitted are bogus. They're just bogus. They're submitted by people who are paid to submit them, people who are paid who get products free and submit reviews. But there is a website or an app, it's actually an app or an extension for your PC called Fake Spot. One word, FAKESPOT. And what it does is evaluates all of the reviews that have been submitted and then sort of through an algorithm determines which ones are bogus and which ones aren't. So, it's another way to look at and get more information about a product. And then with respect to just about anything electronics, the list on the left, CNET, TechRadar, Gizmodo, and they are also valuable places for information. Don't forget, however, these are places that take ads. So they're not entirely unbiased. If they really rip a product, well, it's not good for their business, and I'm not saying they do, but it's, you always have to read a lot of them to make sure you're getting some sort of consensus that, yes, this is a good product or it's not a good product. So
You know,
Okay, so
Carl, in about 6 months or a year from now, maybe somebody else around the country will be doing a Zoom call. And on that list there, I saw TechCrunch, Tech, you know, got something else. Maybe there'll be a Tech Time that somebody else will
TechTime,
say,
right.
hey, that's where they get their information from.
That's right. And that free t-shirt too.
I'd also, I just want to chime in on that list that was up there. What's interesting is I didn't even know Carl was putting that list up, but what's nice is that I use this, a lot of the same things up there, Tech Radar, CNET, Tom's. I've also used PC Magazine just to kind of start out. Sometimes they have a lot of good write-ups from their editors. I also wanted to throw in about a comment about reviews on Amazon. I've been asked to buy a product and then write a review. And in the instructions, this company that sent me something to review, they literally told me to go on, do a search, wait 3 minutes, then scroll down. They literally were telling me what to do so that it looked as if when I buy the product, I am a real person who would be thinking about it, putting in some different search terms, and then selecting their product. That's how sophisticated at least Amazon is checking, or supposedly checking, to filter out fake purchases from, you know, or fake reviews from real reviews. And that if you are just somebody who's doing things like just going on to search for that product, buying it, writing a great review, maybe you're not the authentic, typical buyer who's looking around at multiple things, spending a little time. So they're trying to get sophisticated in weeding out fake reviews from real ones. But I agree with Carl. There are definitely, I don't like to just look at something that has a few reviews. If I figure if it's got 100 or 1,000 people reviewing something, and generally it's 4.5 stars, you know, you throw out the high and the low like the Olympics, and you kind of feel like maybe this is a decent one.
Right. So now let's talk about where to buy electronics and why. You know, why for me is always price. It's the ease of returning it and the return period. Right. So price, you know, obviously is a real driver. But if you buy something and you can only return it within 3 days, that's a real downer. So you can't do that. Now, so a place like Best Buy that gives you 30 days on electronics or most anything, Costco gives you 90 days. I mean, those are really, really compelling reasons why you would want to buy something at a place like that. Amazon, you know, absolutely outstanding customer service. You know, they don't hassle you. If it's within the period, they're going to take it back. I've even bought stuff where they say, keep the old thing. You know, we're not talking about televisions, but just keep the old product. We'll send you a new one. Their customer service is just about, you know, as good as you can possibly get. I've had good experience with Best Buy. They price match. They're pretty decent to deal with. Costco is, you know, wonderful. Manufacturers, they're always good to deal with because they have a reputation. I used to belong to Sam's Club, et cetera. I haven't been as happy with Walmart because I don't find that they review they have a lot of vendors, but I don't think they're as monitored as well as on Amazon. And one reason I think is that it costs more money for people to sell their products on Amazon. But you know, if you talk to the people, they say, well, we sell a lot more on Amazon than we do anywhere else. So we have a lot more restrictions on us. We have to keep our customers really, really happy. And I'm just not as comfortable on Walmart and not a lot of experience on Target. So, you know, that's how I would buy things. And this is where I would buy them. So that's what I have.
And I would just add in, there's always an issue about, do you want to buy the extended warranty on things? And so we talked a little bit about if you purchase things with a credit card, you get extensions. You know, if it's at a place like Costco, they give you double the year with their credit card. The one thing that I would just throw in, I never buy the extended warranty on anything. I just don't. I feel like if it's going to screw up, it's going to screw up pretty early on in the useful life of it. And I've never regretted that decision, not buying the extended warranty. Now I know other people do the complete opposite for peace of mind. It's just a matter of what your experience is, but just for whatever it's worth, I find I don't think there's anything that I can think of that I bought the extended warranty on, and I've never regretted that choice.
I think that is the prevailing wisdom with, most places who are impartial talking about extended warranties. They are huge profit makers, whoever offers them, that unless you can't afford to pay for a new one, if the thing goes, breaks, you are much better off not buying extended warranties and just saying over time, if something does break, et cetera, you have to pay for it, but you spend a hell of a lot less than you have buying a warranty on everything you buy.
Can I just interrupt? So
Yeah.
So if I am buying multiples of something, so say I'm buying like 5 monitors, I will buy the extended warranty on one of them so that I can replace any one of the 5.
Well, that's a great idea. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. That makes sense.
As long as it's not tied in, is it tied into the serial number though? I mean, if monitor 3 breaks,
Usually it's not. It depends on where you buy it from. I mean, most of these places, if you're buying it from Staples or whatever, you just bring back the receipt. You bring back the product and they'll replace it.
okay. Yeah, if it's not tied into the serial number, you can certainly do that for sure. But if they were checking that, that would be my only concern, but that makes sense. But most people are probably not buying multiple monitors and things like that. For you, that sounds like a great idea. But if you're just buying a one-off thing, I don't think it's worth it on a one-off thing at all. The other thing I would say about Amazon returns, by the way, I'm sure most people know this by now, but I mean, just in terms of ease, I mean, they don't even require you to package it up again. You can just bring in the product without the box and anything and just drop it off at a UPS place, at a Whole Foods, at a Kohl's. I mean, they just really do make it so easy to return things. So I'm sure most people know that because we're in the pandemic. And if you didn't know that, you've probably been buying things on Amazon and know that now. But that's another reason for Amazon.
Right. So if any have any questions? No questions. Okay. So yes, Anju, unmute. Oh, you're saying goodbye?
No, I have a question. So
Okay.
I have sticker shock when I have to replace the drum in my laser printers.
Yes.
And some people say just throw it out and buy a new one, because by the time you're buying a drum for a 7-10-year-old printer, you're just better off buying the new one. Any views on that?
7 years old? Absolutely buy a new one.
I just bought the drum because I like the machine, but
But it's still 7 years old. Is it an all-in-one?
yeah, it's a brother all-in-one, similar to yours. And
Okay. Well, I would at that age buy a new one. But you can buy off-brand drums as well. So it's not just off-brand toner cartridges. You can buy off-brand drums. But at that age, buy a new one, buy it refurbished from either the manufacturer. Look at Staples too.
all right. Now, and if you were to buy a drum, would you buy it from that same place that you bought your toners from?
Well, they usually sell them. A lot of places will sell both a toner and refurbished cartridge. Yeah, I mean, refurbished drum. The whole thing.
Okay. And then I had a question for Larry on Lawrence. Sorry, on video editing. What do you think of the video editing that is on YouTube itself?
I haven't used that, quite frankly, so I can't comment on that. It's not, if I wasn't even aware, I got to tell you, didn't even know that they provide that. They allow you to upload and then edit your stuff right there on YouTube.
So what it allow you to do is splice out a piece of it if you don't like something in the video, or if you have a lot of noise in the beginning, to start it earlier or to end it earlier if you want. So it's not very sophisticated, but if you really need just basic, you had some some
Yeah.
error in the middle, or you want to cut out a word, you can use it for that.
I'm sure they're giving you some rudimentary basic stuff. So for that purposes, why wouldn't you use it? But there's no substitute. First of all, you got to go online to do that stuff. There's no substitute for having, your own thing on your own computer which has way more capabilities. But for basic fundamentals, something simple like that, sure, why not? There's no downside to doing it, I'm sure. But I would myself be of the mindset, I want to have the more sophisticated capabilities. And that's just like the tip. That's the very, very tip of the iceberg that they're giving you probably on a YouTube platform to do some basic editing. So I'm not against it for the minor stuff, but I certainly am still advocating for these other free programs because they're just so amazing. And
I know, I'm not even at the 101 level yet, so, but I'm going to play with the program you have. I think it probably takes, 6 hours or so to just play with it to really get comfortable with it. It's not going to
Yeah.
take an hour.
yeah, it's that's going to be a function of your own knack for picking up things and but yeah, there's a little bit of a learning curve, but if you're willing to commit to it and you have something in mind that you want to create, it depends on what your motivation is. I had things that I needed to put on my website, so I was very motivated to learn it. If you're just doing it as a hobby, you're not going to feel the need or compelled to learn it as fast, so it might take you a little longer, but it's just going to be a function of your own personal situation, what's driving you. But just know that these things are amazing. They really are.
Thank you for that guidance.
Yeah.
Mark, is your hand raised or it's just that?
Yes, it is. I just wanted to remind everyone to be very careful when they're downloading this free software, especially for these video editors, because a lot of times what it'll do is people will have ads on their website, and people will put fake downloads of the product as the ad. So you need to be really careful when you go to the website that you are not clicking on an ad to do it. Probably one of the safest ones to do is Filmforth, which is a really nice, because that actually comes directly from Microsoft, and that's in their journal. So it's a nice little tool. I actually used it. I actually switched over because I had an 11.5 minute video that I needed to have under 10 minutes for a conference that I'm doing. So I actually got their product. I sped it up to 1.25 times speed, and instantly I was under the 10-minute mark.
You could also probably have compressed it. If you just
that's what they did. They just compressed the whole video in terms of the playback speed.
Yeah,
So,
that's like the VSDC software allows you, there's other free software. There's a software I use I think it's called Hand Crank, which is a video compression software free. And you just take your file and you put it in, and then you just specify what other format you want it, and bang, it does it in the, just compresses your file. And I had something that was, I can't remember how many gigabytes, and then it compressed it, and then I was able to upload it to the site that I needed to upload it to.
I had a time limit length, so my video had to be between 5 and 10 minutes. And when I recorded my video, the best I could get it was to just over 11 minutes with everything that I wanted to say.
Yeah, so
then
they
I
sped
just
sped it up,
sped it up, and I met the time limit. So it was a nice, easy way to get there.
So we covered in an earlier episode that when you're downloading any kind of software, first of all, make sure that it's a good product by going to some of those other sites we talked about, like Tom's, Gizmodo, et cetera, CNET. Make sure it's decent software, and then only download it from the software provider, their own website. Do not go to CNET and download it. Don't go to any even reputable sites and don't download it, because sometimes they have other stuff that they send along with it. It may not be malicious, but it's not stuff you want.
But
Right.
Even when you go to their sites, Carl, sometimes people have stuck. So because they're free, the free software, they have ad banners on there. And what people will do is they will place ads that say, download this stuff.
I've never seen that. Yeah, I've never
Oh
seen
yeah, it's very common and very dangerous.
Okay.
actually, to Mark's point, on another file transfer program that we talked about once called WeTransfer.com, there's ads that pop up that are look very similar to the actual user interface on the website. And I almost clicked on the one thinking it was like, the ad is like step 1, step 2, step 3. So you click on step 1 thinking you're doing step 1 using their site, but you're actually clicked on the ad. So it is tricky. I know what Mark's talking about. I haven't done it for downloading, but I have done it when I've used other free sites for file transfer. There's an ad that looks like a file transfer program, but it's actually an ad. So it's very clever. They're very sophisticated in how they do that. Sometimes you just will have to be on the website and use the website and just have to be really careful about what you're clicking on. So it's good. It's good stuff to mention that, Mark. So thank you for that.
Okay, so I think we are at the end. So look out on the listserv for our TechTime contest so you can win a t-shirt. And our next episode will be in May.
And maybe we'll review companies that produce t-shirts.
That's right. We'll have spent enough time by then. Okay.
All right. Thanks everybody for attending, and we'll see you at the next Tech Time.
Okay. Take care.